the cash is on its way out.
Okay.
But and this is the key point. It's not just because of technology, like, naturally progressing.
Right.
They're saying it's a deliberate move, a calculated move by governments and these big institutions to gain more control over our money.
That's a strong statement.
Absolutely. And they don't hold back.
Yeah.
They actually use this really striking analogy. They compare the current financial system to the Matrix.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, like we're plugged into this system that's designed to keep us, dependent and ultimately benefit those who are already in control.
So we're all just, batteries in a giant system.
Kinda. Yeah, and the source really goes after traditional banks, calling them out as like the architects of this matrix.
I see where they're going with this.
Right. So one of the big things they highlight is this concept of fractional reserve banking.
Yeah, that's a fundamental part of how banks operate.
So for folks who aren't familiar with this, can you kind of break it down?
Sure. So basically, fractional reserve banking means that banks only need to hold a fraction of their deposits in reserve.
Okay.
The rest they can lend out, and that's how they create profits.
So they're essentially lending out money they don't actually have.
In a way, yes, but it's a bit more nuanced than that.
I know it gets complicated, but the source is saying this is a recipe for disaster.
It can be, yeah, if it's not managed properly.
Right. They point to, bank runs and past financial crises as like proof that this system is inherently unstable.
Okay, I can see their point. There's definitely been some historical examples of that.
Exactly. And so their argument is that we're all stuck on this financial treadmill, working hard to earn money that's constantly losing value while these big banks are profiting off of this system.
It's a pretty bleak picture they're painting.
Yeah, it's not exactly optimistic, but is it realistic? I mean, haven't banks always been the backbone of our economy?
Well, that's a great question, and it's one that the source really wants us to grapple with.
So what are they suggesting? Is there a way out of this financial matrix they're describing?
Buckle up, because that's what we're about to dive into next.
All right, folks, stay tuned. We're just getting started.
Okay, so the source really pushes this idea of a financial awakening, like a shift away from these traditional systems towards this more decentralized future, and they see DeFi as the key.
DeFi, okay.
Yeah, decentralized finance.
So we hear this term a lot these days, but I think for a lot of people, it's still kind of like,
Yeah.
what is it really?
It's kind of mysterious.
How does it work? Can you break it down for us?
So basically, DeFi, it wants to kind of rebuild these traditional financial services,
Okay.
like lending, borrowing, trading, the stuff we're used to,
Right.
but without the banks, without these middlemen.
So it's like peer-to-peer, but for finance.
Exactly. Peer-to-peer finance powered by blockchain technology and smart contracts.
Okay, so no more banks, but then how do these transactions actually happen? Like who's making sure everything goes smoothly?
Right. That's where the blockchain comes in. So picture this. You have this digital ledger,
Okay.
and it records every single transaction, but not in one place.
Oh, interesting.
It's spread across a whole network of computers.
Okay.
That's the blockchain in a nutshell. And then you've got these things called smart contracts.
Smart contracts, okay.
Think of them like agreements, but written in code.
Uh-huh.
They automatically enforce the terms of a transaction, so no need for like lawyers or paperwork or anything like that.
So it's all automated and secure because it's on this blockchain.
Exactly. And because everything's transparent and out in the open, it can actually help reduce the risk of fraud and manipulation.
Which is what the source was really concerned about.
Right, exactly.
It all sounds very futuristic and kind of too good to be true.
Yeah.
Are there any downsides to DeFi? I mean, there's got to be a catch, right?
Well, DeFi, it's still pretty new. It's evolving.
Sure.
The technology itself is complex, and there's not a ton of regulation yet. So
there's potential for scams and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern. And because it's so decentralized, it can be really hard to track down scammers or recover funds if something goes wrong.
So it's important to do your research.
Yeah.
Choose reputable platforms.
Absolutely.
Be cautious.
Yeah, especially if you're just starting out.
Right. Okay. So education is key.
Yeah.
But still, the potential benefits of DeFi, like greater control and transparency, it's pretty compelling.
Oh, for sure. And that's where cryptocurrency enters the picture.
Okay. So cryptocurrency, how does that fit into all of this?
Well, it's like the fuel that powers a lot of these DeFi platforms. You've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these different cryptocurrencies.
Right.
They're digital assets that can be used for all sorts of things like buying stuff, storing value.
So it's not just about trading it and trying to make a quick buck.
No, there's a much bigger picture here, at least according to the source.
Okay.
They see cryptocurrency as this fundamental break from traditional finance. It's decentralized, so no government or central bank is controlling it.
Right.
It runs on the blockchain, which makes it secure and transparent.
Got it.
And it could potentially create a much more level playing field, giving individuals more control over their finances.
I mean, that all sounds great in theory, but isn't that also what makes it so risky?
Yeah.
The lack of regulation, the volatility, the scams,
It can feel like the Wild West out there.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
cryptocurrency markets are still young, and there are definitely risks involved.
Okay.
But for people who really believe in this vision of decentralized finance, those risks might be worth taking.
It sounds like the source is calling for a complete paradigm shift, like a total transformation of how we think about money.
Yeah. It's a radical idea.
But is it realistic? Can these technologies actually deliver on their promises?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's one that we'll explore as we dig into the source's call to action.
All right, so we've talked about this financial awakening, moving away from traditional systems, towards this more decentralized future,
Right.
DeFi, crypto, all that. But how do we actually make that happen? Like, what are the steps people can take to prepare for this potential upheaval?
Well, the source is pretty clear on this one. Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you feel about the future of money.
Right.
The first step is to educate yourself. The more you understand about personal finance, different investment options, these emerging technologies, the better equipped you'll be to navigate all this change.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed, though, right?
Yeah, definitely.
There's just so much information out there. How do you even know where to start?
You got to take it one step at a time.
Okay.
Start by figuring out what your financial goals are. Are you saving for retirement? Trying to buy a house? Or just want to manage your money better day to day?
Makes sense.
Once you know what you're aiming for, you can start looking for information that's relevant to your goals.
So it's not about becoming like a crypto whiz overnight.
No.
It's more about building a solid foundation of financial knowledge and then exploring different options based on, your risk tolerance and all that.
Exactly. And there are tons of resources out there these days. Websites, books, podcasts,
Right.
even financial advisors who specialize in alternative investments. The key is to be proactive. Seek out knowledge. Be careful about who you trust,
Do your research.
Absolutely.
But knowledge is just the first step, right?
Yeah.
At some point, you have to actually do something.
Right.
What would you say to someone who's like feeling paralyzed by all this talk of financial collapse? Like they want to make changes, but they're frozen?
Start with the basics.
Okay.
Create a budget, track your spending. See where you can cut back, pay down that high interest debt, diversify your investments,
The fundamentals.
Exactly. Those are the principles that matter no matter what happens in the future.
So even if you're not ready to jump into DeFi and crypto head first,
Yeah,
there's still stuff you can do right now to make your financial future more secure.
absolutely. And if you are interested in exploring those alternative options, start slowly, do your research. There are platforms that offer educational resources and even simulated trading so you can practice without risking real money.
It's like dipping your toes in the water before you cannonball in.
Exactly. Learn the basics, experiment in a safe environment, and gradually build your knowledge and your confidence.
It's all about taking control of your own financial well-being, becoming informed, making choices that empower you.
Exactly. And that's a really important takeaway from this source, even if you don't agree with everything they say.
Right.
This idea of taking control, not just being a passive player in a system that might not be working for you.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
Well, I think that's a great note to leave our listeners on.
Yeah.
Whether or not you believe this whole financial matrix is about to collapse. I hope this deep dive has given you some things to think about.
Some food for thought.
Yeah, and some practical steps you can take to feel more confident and in control of your financial future.
It definitely raises an interesting question too, doesn't it?
Oh.
What happens if we really do see this massive shift away from traditional finance, towards these decentralized systems? What does that mean for society? How does it change our relationship with money, with institutions, with each other?
Wow. That's a really thought-provoking question.
Makes you think.
It does. It really does. Well, thank you so much for guiding us through this complex and fascinating topic.
My pleasure.
Remember, knowledge is power.
Keep learning.
So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep taking control of your financial destiny.